Hey, Teddy K here for Best Buy Plugin, and in this video review we take a look at the Fitbit Ionic, Fitbit's first real attempt at a smartwatch, and the first device that bears some of the hallmarks of the company's Pebble acquisition. That the Ionic has the chops to be a really stellar fitness band should come as no surprise. That's Fitbit's MO. So they've got that part down, but it's a smartwatch. It's the smartwatch elements that are the real question mark here. Can Fitbit create something that is like the best in the business? So think of the Apple Watch, for example. And can it make it so viable and so functional that it actually gets better over time? So I think this is the question over the Ionic, and we're going to look into that and see how good it really is. Fitness features naturally take up the lion's share of the Ionic, even though you do get phone notifications when you want them. So the idea here is to have a watch that can function pretty evenly. So the physical buttons are limited. I mean, you only have really the one power button or back button on the side, and then you have the other two that can only work as action buttons based on what they're aligned with. Now I'm speeding through some of the interface here just so you can see. The exercises, there are only 7 that you can access at one time. You can adjust that in the Fitbit app. The Fitbit app, I should mention, is key to doing much of what you want to do as far as setting up the watch. Here's just an example of me using it on an elliptical so you can get an idea. Fitbit Coach is basically FitStar rolled into the Fitbit Coach app. So if you've used FitStar before, if you subscribe to it, that's now called Fitbit Coach. Just want to point out also that the Ionic is waterproof. And you can use it in salt water apparently, just so you know. Want to listen to music wirelessly without a phone, you can store music on the device and listen with Bluetooth headphones as well. You want to relax, you can do that. And then of course there's Fitbit Pay, which I'll touch on a little bit after. So the weather, you get apps that are useful, that are basic. And there is going to be some room for expansion here, but there's some question marks on that, which I'm going to touch on a little bit later as well. So you can see kind of how the interface looks and how it reacts. I mean, the screen is pretty responsive. The buttons are pretty responsive as well. It's pretty easy to navigate and get around to what you want to do. You just can't customize too much of what you want. You can move the icons around, but you can't do much else other than that. Yeah, there's a Starbucks app for those of you who like that and want to buy a latte. You can do that by loading up your Starbucks card onto the Ionic as well. So these are some of the basic settings, and of course I mentioned that you can pair it with Bluetooth. You want to change the watch face, you can do that too. You got to do that through the app. Now you got to do this through Wi-Fi. You can do it through Bluetooth, but it takes too long. The problem with the Wi-Fi connection I noticed initially trying this is that it's really wonky and it needs a 2.4 gigahertz network. If you're using a mesh network that doesn't have an SSID in 2.4 gigahertz, you might be in trouble. Of course, Fitbit wants this thing to be a fashionable product, and hence there is a leather band, which I'm showing you here. So genuine leather band that you can use, and that way you can wear the watch out, so that's a little bit more of a fashionable item as opposed to just being a functional thing that you use in the gym. It looks pretty good. I don't know, gunmetal with the brown, I mean, I think that might be a bit subjective, but it looks pretty good, but not the prettiest thing I've seen. You can think of the Ionic in two kind of components. So on the one hand, you have the fitness side, which is already well established and works really well. If you know what a fitness band is like, or sorry, what a Fitbit band is like, and you like how it functions, you're going to get pretty much the same experience here, and maybe even a little then some. If you are looking at the smartwatch side, and you've never used the Blaze, so the Blaze wasn't a full-on smartwatch, but it did kind of act like one, then that's where I think you need to have a little bit of faith to see what's going to happen down the line. Because not all the features are there yet, and all the functionality and everything that Fitbit is hoping or promising to do is not available out of the box. So for app integration, for example, there are a number of apps that are compatible with the Fitbit Ionic, but not all of them are available. So if you go through the Fitbit app, as I showed earlier, you can't get to all the apps. I looked online and there are more than what is shown in the app. Why I can't get them all? Well, it's just not available yet. It also matters by geography. So what you might have in the US, you might not be able to get in Canada. So all these things kind of play into it. And I mean, the payment feature is another thing. You know, Fitbit Pay is great. I love the idea, but it'll take some time before the banks sort of sign on. Just having a Visa or MasterCard is not enough. You need to have a bank as an issuer to play ball too. And then lastly is all the other stuff. So I mean, the fact that you want to wear the watch when you go out, is it as fashionable maybe as some of the other smartwatches out there? Maybe not, but you know, you always trade off something. I mean, the most fashionable smartwatches I find are the ones that you can't necessarily get all the technical features for, and then vice versa. So I think the Ionic is somewhere in the middle. It's not the most beautiful watch you've probably ever seen. It's probably not the ugliest either, but I don't know that it's going to be the head turner that maybe some people are thinking it should be. So that's why I focus more on the functionality, because if this watch can do everything that you want it to do, whether it's for fitness or just for activity tracking or whatever it may be, and you like the idea that it integrates with apps or that it stores music and you can play music without having a phone nearby, all those things, there are a number of ways that you can make this watch really work for you, but the full breadth, I think, of what it's capable of is going to take some time to show. And that's my review of the Fitbit Ionic smartwatch for Best Buy Plugin. I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.